Greetings. This is, of course, Dr. Chibi, and let me show this lovely t-shirt. Yes. In a way, that's a bit appropriate in some ways for what I'm speaking about tonight. The cocktail I'll be making for Haunted House Italian Horror Nights 27. The second house to be officially announced, The Shining. Don't get any but wrong ideas about this t-shirt. Probably won't be seeing Pennywise this year. Love to, but I don't think they can quite swing that. But it is, though, has some relationship to The Shining in an interesting way, as some of you probably are aware. Now, it is Sunday night, the 4th of June. There's a lot of wonderful things on the telly, including a football match between Orlando and Chicago, as well as The Leftovers and Twin Peaks. It's an interesting night, so I don't want to take too long. To come up with the cocktail for The Shining, I was perplexed. I thought about a lot of different ideas. I thought about maybe something with Jack Daniels, because after all, Jack Torrance, Danny Torrance, both in the movie, the father and son, and he does drink a lot of bourbon. And this Jack drinks a lot of bourbon, whiskey, served up by that spectral bartender in the ballroom at the Overlook Hotel. But Jack Daniels is actually Tennessee whiskey. It's not bourbon, but that's all right. Thought about it. Then I thought about, of course, what was so obvious. It had to be. Of course, anything that will be a Shining cocktail needs rum. Red rum, of course. What sort of rum and how red do I make it? Well, there's actually a brand called REDRUM. It's not all rum. It's got some fruit juices and it's red, and it comes in a sort of octagonal, almost coffin-shaped bottle. Not available in the Florida market for some reason. Yeah, I couldn't get that. Damn. So what could I use to make my Shining cocktail, my REDRUM cocktail? So I decided to actually make some combination of different things. First, I was going to use some whiskey. I am going to use whiskey because, of course, Jack does drink a lot of whiskey. So because of that, I'm going to use this High West whiskey, and of course High West does bring to mind the Overlook Hotel, which is in the west, out in Colorado, and is quite high up in the mountains. This High West actually comes from the same mountains, but in Utah, which delights me no end that there's a distillery in Utah, considering all the Mormons and everything. They don't like alcohol. But here's, put a little bit of that into my, not too much, into this jigger, and then add it to my cocktail shaker. So that's the first ingredient. All right, cork the bottle again. And now for the rum, because we need rum for our REDRUM cocktail. There's a bit of whiskey and rum in here. So the rum I've chosen is one I've seen used before. This is Briny Gold Shipwreck spiced rum. Why did I pick this one? Very simple. Briny gold. The key word here being gold. Where does Jack spend most of his time drinking in the Overlook Hotel? In the Gold Ballroom. Gold is a very important code name for the house. I mean, code word for the cocktail. Anyway, so I shall put a little bit of the briny gold and pour that into my jigger, at least as much as I did with the whiskey. Then put that into this. This is more than a normal ounce of a jigger though, so I don't want to fill it all the way to the brim. I might not have room in my cocktail glass, even though it's plus size too. So just a little bit, because the next ingredient is very important, because there's some rum and some whiskey in here, but it's not all red. I need something red. Shake this a little bit. This is a syrup. This is the non-alcoholic ingredient. This is Monin, M-O-N-I-N, but it's French. Le sirop de Monin. raspberry. I forget how to say raspberry in French. I think it's framboise or something like that. But it is a raspberry syrup from France. Monin. Monin makes a lot of different flavors. If I can figure out, is it actually from France? Clearwater, Florida. Holy crap, they just use a French name to fool me. Sheesh. So it's actually from right here in Florida. That's silly. But I suppose it's appropriate. It's appropriate because it makes you think it's French and it's actually hiding out in Florida. Where was Dick Halloran hiding out in The Shining? Right here in Florida, where Danny sends him a psychic message, come out, and he goes up. REDRUM. So we put the Monin, this red raspberry syrup. We put quite a bit of it, a bit more in the jigger than the others, and pour that in. Hopefully, it'll do the job. I thought about adding some Campari or something to make it redder in appearance, but I thought, no, that would be too bitter. I want it to have a fruity, rummy taste, but it needs a trace of that. Not too much, but in addition to the whiskey, these are orange bitters. That's all the bitter it needs. So this is the Bitter Truth orange bitters, and I'll just put a dashy dash of that into, just a dash, and that seasons the cocktail. That should do it, I hope. Let's see how this turns out. What time is it? 8:24. Good, I have plenty of time before the leftovers start, and I need to catch the rest of the football match while that's going on too. So far there hadn't been any goals when I came out here, but it looked like Rafael Ramos got himself in trouble again. Damn it! In his first match back after all this time. Sugar, 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 sugar. Ooh, don't splash on your computer. Sugar, 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 sugar. There it goes. All shook up. Now I pour the cocktail into this cocktail glass, and hopefully it's a red rum. Oops, almost too full. More cocktail in the shaker than could fit in the glass. Gonna have to do this Dutch style and sip a little bit off the top. That works. That works quite well. Okay, so here it is, my red rum cocktail. Quite nice. Red rum! Yes. Yes. Hello, Mrs. Torrance. I'm not Dr. Jimmy. I'm a little man who lives in his mouth. Are you saying Dr. Jimmy's had a man in his mouth? I won't answer that on the grounds it might incriminate me. Anyway, getting back to The Shining. Whilst I enjoy the remainder of this cocktail. As I promised in a previous video, there was some controversy, or there has been some controversy about The Shining, particularly sort of wild conspiracy theories that have roamed around all the years, and many of them have been perpetuated by an intriguing documentary called Room 237. I recommend it because it's just bonkers. These people have come up with the most bonkers, silly, barking mad theories about The Shining, and they purport these to be accurate, based on their own pet peeves, their own obsessions, their own wild obsessions, and they project them on the movie because, well, one fellow believes that the whole movie, Stephen King's book is nothing to do with it. Kubrick is sending out a secret message hidden in the movie. It's really his confession to the world that he faked the moon landing. Yes, the old conspiracy theory that we didn't actually fly to the moon in the Apollo missions, but rather they got some Hollywood people to fake these footage of Neil Armstrong stepping onto the moon, and all of that was faked. No one's ever got to the moon. I don't believe that for one bloody minute. But this is a theory that's been going around for years. It's the typical, aluminum foil hat conspiracy theory. It's not even a cool one like the Illuminati or the aliens in Roswell, any of that stuff. But no, we never got to the moon. There's another theory I like better, that we've never left the moon. We have secret bases up there with alien UFOs and everything, that we've been up there all this time. And we faked the Challenger explosion to cover up all the space programs so that people won't know that we've actually got, Starfleet shit going up already. I like that one a lot better than the one that we never actually got there. We never could and probably never will. There's too much radiation. We couldn't possibly get to the moon. Crazy theory. And according to this crazy theory, when Stanley Kubrick made 2001: A Space Odyssey, the people at NASA said, "Oh, that looks so authentic. He's the man to fake it for us." And so they got him to fake the moon landing, except if he had, it would look like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and you'd have these big jagged pointed white mountains on the moon instead of being a more flat shield shape. Mountains don't have that jagged point. It's been beaten down by asteroids and shit. So it all looks like it looks like this, even though you do have high peaks. They just don't stick up like pointy, jagged things. It's just sort of smoother. And it isn't white. I mean, it looks white because of the reflection of the sun, but when you're up there, it looks more like a sandy brown color. When the astronauts actually orbited the moon, they looked down and said, "It looks like a chocolate milkshake." And that's something I remember when I was a little boy, because I'm that old. So, no, he couldn't have faked, because he wouldn't have known what it would have really looked like up there, and made it, he would have made it look like what everyone thought it was going to look like, and then it would make sense. It just doesn't have the verisimilitude, But there are ideas that he's the one who faked it, who shot the footage, and now he's confessing his crime in 1980, 11 years later, by showing Danny Torrance wearing a shirt with Apollo rocket on it. And I think that's what the whole theory is based on. The t-shirt, the little sweater that Danny wears at one point. And everything else, supposedly there's mathematical clues and shit that doesn't make a bloody lot of sense. Oh, the difference between 327 or 237 and 217 apparently has to do with the lunar landing. Well, actually what it was, is they used, although they shot all of these scenes inside, in actual sets, in a soundstage in London, because Kubrick did not leave the UK, didn't want to leave the UK at that time. They were establishing shots using an actual hotel in the United States. I don't remember the name offhand, Timberview or something like that. Anyway, there's an actual hotel where they shot some establishing scenes, and the front of the hotel is obviously the same hotel. You can look it up on the internet. And they have a room 217, and they don't have a room 237. Therefore, they asked nicely to the filmmakers, please do not use the number 217, because that's an actual room at the hotel, and we don't want to have any problems with our guests, but use a made-up number for a room we don't have. And so they did. They changed it to 237 just so to please the hotel. It had nothing to do with the moon landing. Another theory is that this movie is really all about the Holocaust. And Kubrick is trying to say something about the Holocaust. I don't quite get that. I don't think there's a Jewish character in the entire movie, but this is based on the fact the number 42, which apparently pops up a couple of times. Of course, we know why the number 42 pops up. It's the answer to the question about life, the universe, and everything. Problem is, it's only the answer. We don't know the question. Do you know where your towel is? Yes. But no, they believe 1942, this person believes, is the start of the Holocaust. Actually, it started a bit earlier than that. Kristallnacht was in the 30s, if I remember correctly. But he has the notion that's why. That's why it was the number 42 is secretly put in the movie somehow, which is, again, bollocks. Another theory is that it actually has to do with Native American genocide, and that's why you have some baking powder with pictures of Indians on it, and the Indian Native American motif of the Overlook Hotel itself. Oh, never mind that it's a hotel in Colorado where that sort of motif would be commonly used. No, it's meant to be a secret message. So there's that. It just kind of boggles your mind, the silly things people come up with. Another one is that Kubrick is trying to say something about the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur, you know, the famous pattern, labyrinth-like pattern of the floor, and apparently there's a poster of a skier that if you look at it in the wrong way while freezing the frame, it might look like a ball. I don't know. It's just quite silly. So you have all these ridiculous ideas. People have superimposed their ideas on The Shining, trying to say this is what Kubrick really meant. And my belief has been since day one, Kubrick really meant to make a fucking scary movie. And he used a lot of subliminal effects and inconsistencies and continuity errors deliberately to try to create a sense of unease in the audience. I think he did it in such a way that he hoped it wouldn't be consciously noticed. You might not notice a different coloured typewriter from two different shots. You're not paying attention to the colour of the typewriter, you're paying attention to what's being typed. You know, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy and all this other stuff that you see in the typewriter. Your attention is focused on the paper. You might not notice it was a light grey and now it's more of a black, darker grey colour, and it changed mysteriously from two scenes because you're focused on the paper and what's written on, typed on the paper. Likewise, you might not notice furniture was moved around the background, that there's an impossible window in Omen's office, you know, all the things I mentioned in a different video. But these things might be picked up by your subconscious mind, but not by your conscious mind. And so when you're watching the movie, you know something's fucked up and wrong, but you don't know what. And it creates a sense of unease, like, why am I, you know, nervousness, anxiety, fear, which you can't put a finger on, and therefore, you're a bit, you know, you get this overwhelming fear, and, you know, he knew that Friedkin did some of those tricks in The Exorcist, especially the near subliminal images of Pazuzu. And some other dirty tricks for the person watching, and so he thought he might do something similar to startle the hell out of you and freak you out. And so that has a lot to do with it. It's just about 8:30. Good. I have plenty of time. So that's what I think is really going on in the movie. Kubrick wants to unnerve you and terrify you completely with the film, and I think that's a lot of fun. A lot of fun indeed. Did I mention the tennis ball in the previous video? I don't think I did. There's a little bit about a tennis ball. You see Jack playing tennis, throwing the tennis ball at the wall. And a little later on, Danny goes past room 237 and a tennis ball comes rolling out. Ooh, what does that mean? Well, people don't realize it. That little tennis ball pops up a third time. Kind of makes you wonder, that was Jack's ball. How did it come out of the bathroom? That was you know. Did he have it with him when he went and met the lady in the tub? It's just all rather mysterious. I don't remember if Jack met the lady in the tub before or after Danny did, in a more horrible way. I don't think so, because then when Danny says it was her, and Jack freaks out because Wendy did this, because that's his first thought, you know. But I think he went to investigate afterwards. But that's right. But in the movie there was another ending. When the movie first opened in 1980, it had a longer ending than was seen afterwards. On the opening weekend, it had a longer ending, and after it had opened, Kubrick decided to snip that opening, the ending a little bit. He just made a few adjustments. Originally, you have Jack is frozen with the axe in the hedge maze, and then you have after that the picture of in the hotel. You know, the famous picture. His hands are like this. That's another conspiracy theory. His hands are like this, and his lower hand is kind of like this, and he's sort of like this, and that's the way that the devil is seen, the pose the devil makes in the tarot card of the devil. And so they thought maybe he's become the devil in the tarot card and it's hell. But what I have to say quickly here is what happened in the very first opening of The Shining, the opening weekend. There was a little bit between those two scenes. There is a scene that shows what happens with Danny and Wendy. In hospital, Danny and Wendy are in hospital, and so it shows they're okay, they got out of the hotel safe. You did see them sliding down the ice out of the window, getting away, but now you actually see the two of them in a hospital. Wendy's in a hospital bed, and she's getting better, and Danny's playing. And Stuart Oman, that's the man who's the manager of the hotel, shows up, and he says, well, they went back and checked, and they found nothing out of order at the hotel whatsoever. So whatever your story is, it sounds crazy. We found nothing out of order. So then Wendy's upset by that, and he walks off, and he's holding a yellow tennis ball, and he throws it to Danny. Yeah, catch. And the boy's got the tennis ball out, because that's the same ball that came out of the room. And that implies that Stuart Oman may be in league with whatever evil lurks in the Overlook, and that the evil will continue. In fact, when it cuts to the picture with Jack's face at the New Year's Eve party from 1937 or whatever year it was, you see little titles, little captions on the movie screen saying the Overlook Hotel reopened after this incident, as it had after so many incidents before, and continues to remain open every year, closing in the winter, therefore from, I think, what is it, March to September every year, and make it look like, evil doesn't die, the cycle continues. And I've now completed the cocktail, and my Shining cocktail. That's my second cocktail for Halloween Horror Nights 27. And I'll make the next one when the next house is announced, whatever it might be. So I'll go ahead and say ta-ta for now. Red Rum!